Last one and I'm home free.
So after the first episode of Spider-Man the Animated Series, which came out in November of 1994, we would not see the second episode till February 4th of 1995. Now, depending on where you lived, you might have seen the Spider Slayer, which is of course the episode we're reviewing today, or you might have been one of the people that sees the Sting of the Scorpion, which is actually the 6th episode in the series. But today we are focusing on the official second episode, the Spider Slayer, which came out on February 4th of 1995. And the story is of course once again written by John Samper Jr. and Stan Berkowitz. This would be a big episode for Spider-Man fans and the series itself, as it would start layering the entire universe that exists here and of course introducing new characters. This is the first time we're introduced to Jennifer Hale's Felicia Hardy, who of course goes on and becomes the Black Cat. Along with her, we would also get our first appearance of Alistair Smythe, way before he started juicing, first appearance of Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin, and of course Eddie Brock is now a series regular for the first season at least, voiced by Hank Azaria, who you guys might know as Mo Zizlak and various other Simpsons characters. And we would also get introduced to a few other characters that are important to Spider-Man history, such as Flash Thompson, who is usually portrayed as a giant Spider-Man fanboy and also a huge enemy of Peter Parker, Harry Osborn, son of Norman Osborn, and of course one of Peter Parker's best friends, and Norman Osborn himself, who would of course go on to become one of Spider-Man's greatest enemies. And like the first episode in the series, this one also takes inspiration, this time from Amazing Spider-Man issue number 5, where we see Flash Thompson dress up as Spider-Man, who actually gets attacked. And this episode itself would go on to be adapted into a comic called Spider-Man Adventures, The Strike of the Spider Slayer, which was the 3rd issue in the Spider-Man Adventures. And at the time this episode came out, it was praised by mostly everybody who was talking about it because it started to tell a long-form story that would inevitably see a bunch of these characters end up in their comic book counterparts' shoes, so people could notice all of these little Easter eggs and what they were trying to do. And it should also be known that this series started to take a lot of liberties, specifically with Felicia Hardy, one of the most noticeable ones, as her entire back history and her relationship to her father were changed for this cartoon. In the comics, she never actually had a rich life as she's portrayed as having in this, and as a matter of fact, in the comics she was actually a victim of rape, but you can obviously tell why they would want to shy away from that in this. This episode would also feature a bunch of first time things, including the first appearance of the web cartridges, the first time Oscorp gets destroyed, and also the first time Spider-Man's webbing runs out, which is of course crucial to a lot of Spider-Man's stories to make him seem out of his element. And this episode even features the first mention of Mary Jane Watson, who Peter Parker is trying to avoid going on a blind date with. So as the episode opens up, we see that it's a regular night and Spidey is out on patrol in New York. Or regular, so we and him would think, as he is attacked by a bunch of drones trying to seek him out. Spidey is quick to dodge a bunch of their attempts to knock him out while he's still trying to figure out why exactly these patrol vehicles are attacking him. Over the course of the next minute or so, we're going to follow Peter as he's swinging around the city, really trying to outsmart these drones chasing him.
Last one and I'm home free. And who's on my tail this time? You.
And this is when we see that the entire operation is being run by 3 people. The man that is funding everything, Norman Osborn, Spencer Smythe, the brains behind this operation, and Alistair Smythe, his younger son who is paralyzed from the waist down.
Failed Smythe.
My father is the world's foremost expert in the field of robotics, Mr. Osborn.
As Norman Osborn is yelling at them for being a failure and not being able to stop Spider-Man, Smythe Sr. says that was only a trial run. He has a far better idea and a plan. While arguing with Norman Osborn, Smythe said that their job was not to capture Spider-Man. It was intended for something else.
You only invented them. What good are they if they can't catch him? That's not their job.
These drones are only used to locate Spider-Man, as Spencer Smythe has a much bigger plan in mind, as he reveals the Black Widow, the first of his line of brand new Spider Slayers. And after that, we are introduced to Felicia Hardy for the very first time, and we see that she is working with J. Jonah Jameson to organize a charity ball.
It's all been taken care of, right, Mr. Jameson?
Of course.
This isn't the first charity ball I've hosted, Miss Hardy.
It turns out that J. Jonah Jameson is being J. Jonah Jameson, and of course very stingy about money. And as it would turn out, they also need a photographer for this event. As Peter Parker is standing outside the office investigating the pictures he took of those drones that were following Spider-Man, he's called into the office.
I wonder who's controlling.
Peter, Mr. Jameson wants to see you.
Be right there.
That's why I'm sending my very best photographer.
And J. Jonah Jameson, of course, reluctantly sends Peter Parker to take the photo. And as luck would have it, Peter Parker also knows Felicia, and Felicia knows him because they both go to school together.
Mr. Jameson says you're his best photographer.
Peter tries to sound very humble, saying it's no big deal, before Jameson comes right back at him saying this is a big deal as his name is attached to this event. So Peter must not fail. Everything must go according to plan and perfect. Over with Norman Osborn, we see that they are putting the finishing touches on the Spider Slayer. And as luck would have it, the one and only Eddie Brock is involved with this scenario because he also wants to capture Spider-Man and expose his identity to the world. And seeing how last time he was so wrong about the Lizard, he has a lot to prove to Jonah. Norman Osborn is quick to say all he wants to do is have Spider-Man captured, and Eddie Brock backs him up by saying that he needs this done.
I just want Spider-Man captured. He's a criminal.
Yeah, and he's big news, too. I gotta go line up my crew.
I get a bad feeling whenever somebody says I have to trust him.
That's not entirely inappropriate, Alistair. But there is another consideration.
Alistair Smythe talks to his dad, and he figures out that he's only doing this because he wants to provide his son the best things he can. One of these being a wheelchair that's going to actually float so he doesn't use all this effort trying to get around. After that, we catch up with Norman Osborn and the important thing he had to do so he couldn't stay overlooking the Slayer project. It turns out he's meeting with the one and only Wilson Fisk, aka the Kingpin. And as it turns out, Norman made a deal with the Kingpin. If Spider-Man is destroyed, he's gone forever. If he's not, then Norman Osborn gives up Oscorp to the Kingpin.
Whatever happens, you win.
That's why I'm the Kingpin.
Back with the Smythes, we see that they are fixing those drones that were tracking Spider-Man, and they're going to send them out for another recon mission. Once they locate Spidey, they send the giant Spider Slayer, and they've taken care of their problem. And their problem is going to bring them to the ball.
Flash, everything's working out so well tonight. Jameson was...
And we're finally introduced to the character of Flash Thompson, but he's quickly sidelined because Felicia notices Peter Parker, who brought his Aunt May to the party along with him.
This is Felicia Hardy.
Very nice to meet you. Mind if I borrow your nephew for a dance?
And as Peter is having a dance with Felicia, we see Harry Osborn and Flash Thompson looking on, who starts to get very angry and he cooks up a plan of his own. Flash's big bright idea is to put on the Spider-Man costume that he bought for a frat party. Unfortunately for him, the drones seem to have mistaken him for Spider-Man. Back over while he's making out with Felicia Hardy, Peter Parker's Spidey sense goes off, as Spider-Man walks up to Peter Parker demanding that he stop taking pictures of him.
Pictures you're always taking of me. I don't like them.
Well, I'm sorry.
That's a little better.
Peter's Spidey sense goes off again as a Spider Slayer comes crashing through the roof like a Kool-Aid man. Flash Thompson is quick to run away while Peter makes sure that his aunt is okay. As the Spider Slayer is right about to attack Felicia Hardy, the real Spider-Man shows up and the Spidey Slayer goes right after him. And in all the confusion and ruckus, we see that the roof collapses, covering Spider-Man as he's taken away by the Spider Slayer. And the ultimate opportunist Eddie Brock is waiting.
Here it is. The moment all America has been waiting for. The unmasking of Spider-Man.
Flash Thompson.
You know him?
He goes to school with my nephew, Peter Parker.
And as luck would have it, the wrong Spider-Man was caught, as a bunch of soldiers stormed the room which Eddie Brock is located in. As it turns out, Norman Osborn sent him in because they want Spider-Man captured, not for the police, but for someone else.
I thought we were going to hand Spider-Man over to the police.
What's going on, Osborn?
I had nothing to do with this.
And as it turns out, once again, Eddie Brock has made a fool of himself, but not just that, he's also made a fool of the Daily Bugle, a J. Jonah Jameson, for once again staking his reputation on his big scoop. As Spider-Man now knows the location of the Spider Slayer, he quickly swings on over in hopes of saving everybody. He has to make it right in time before they think that Flash Thompson is the real Spider-Man, because they still don't know that he's not. And now Spidey has his ultimate challenge in front of him, the Spider Slayer, and he's going to try to do everything he can to try to defeat it. Unfortunately, Norman Osborn also sends those drones to try to attack him at the same time, which causes the entire place to go up in flames. Spencer Smythe is ordered by Norman Osborn to stay behind while the entire place is on fire, because the agreement was he has to take care of Spider-Man if he's to take care of Alistair. Spider-Man, with the help of Flash Thompson, does end up taking out the Spider Slayer, as Flash becomes a distraction so Spidey can get on top of him, disable it, and send it into a pit of acid. Meanwhile, outside, we see that Alistair is safe.
My father. Did he get out?
But someone who's not safe is Eddie Brock, as J. Jonah Jameson is sick of his antics.
No, just wait a minute. Wait, you can't.
Get this bonehead out of here, will you?
And he's not the only one, as Felicia is quick to break it off with Flash Thompson.
Felicia?
That's Miss Hardy to you, Buster.
Yeah, forget it.
And Peter Parker isn't gonna have any better luck either, as she's quick to point out that he abandoned her and she wants nothing to do with someone who's willing to do that. And as the episode comes to a close, we see that Kingpin has a new offer for Alistair, to come work for him and avenge his father's death at the hands of Spider-Man. This episode of the series is honestly pretty damn decent and introduces a lot of elements that the series is going to fundamentally base itself on. And of course, this season would be a huge success due to this episode for laying in that groundwork and foundation so people could wait because they knew what was coming. It is also a very action-packed episode and introduces a bunch of great elements like Felicia Hardy and like the Kingpin, which people to this day still associate characters like the Kingpin with Spider-Man, even though he is a Daredevil villain. And this episode would also be a two-parter, as it directly leads into the third episode of the series. So they do have to be watched back to back to understand the full story.